Here. All right, so we are recording. Welcome to MVP Office Hours. My name is Dale Ziegler. I am one of the three MVPs that you see listed there in the lower left of the screen. Normally also joined by Jared Kingston, also here in Kansas City, longtime MVP and I think one of the co-founders of MVP Office Hours a number of years ago, as well as Jackie Trevieso out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Jared, I believe, is traveling with a client today, and Jackie is actually actively running her user group in Charlotte. So I hate to say it, but y'all are stuck with me as an MC running solo. So I'm going to do the best I can. But I see a good batch of names here on the list. So this is going to be a good conversation and a good call. Our Twitter handle, MVP Office Hours, as well as our individual Twitter handles. And you can go to mvpofficehours.info anytime to get information on the MVP Office Hours program, because it's not just here in the US, and we'll touch on that here in a couple of minutes. On the right side of the screen, community events, Salesforce events, click any of those links, and there's a number of ways to get connected at actual events. That middle section in the right are the Dreamin' events, which if you're new to MVP Office Hours or new to the community, those are run by us as members of the community in different regions or for specific verticals, or WIT or Forcelandia is a developer conference. I'm going to especially call out that bottom one, Midwest Dreamin', August 7, 8, and 9 in Chicago. I'm on the core planning team, and we are hopefully this weekend, if not next week, going to actually start publicizing who our 49 speakers will be. We're super excited that we came into this year thinking we'd have 35, and then we found out that we were going to have an Einstein analytics track, so we got up to 42, and then we're able to beef it up a little bit more, so we're going to have almost 50 breakout sessions this year. So I highly encourage not only Midwest Dreamin', but any of the regional events, much more intimate than Dreamforce, and really a great way to connect with everybody. So any of these links here on the side, and we will share this deck afterwards. So if you're interested in clicking through any of them, it will be made available. And we hope to see all of you at any of them. So MVP Office Hours as a whole, generally speaking. So we have this call here in the US on the first and third Friday of the month. So with May being a 5-Friday month, we actually won't have our next one for another 3 weeks on June 7th. But it is an open Q&A. There are no stupid questions. There are no stupid answers. And anybody can ask questions. Anybody can answer questions. We want you to bring your experience. We want this to be an open conversation. This is a very, very, very safe place to talk, to ask questions. If you have immediate technical issues that are just bugging you right now that somebody might be able to help with, please ask it. There have even been times where if an issue is a little bit more complicated than we can handle on a call, there's usually somebody who will pick up the flag and say, you know what, I have time later this afternoon or next week. Let's do a one-on-one conference call and just see if we can hammer this out. We are all here to help each other. Because this is an open conference call, we just ask that if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. Sometimes we'll get random background noise or any number of things. So just, if you're not speaking, just mute. But if you want to speak, unmute. Simple as that. And then also there, you have the ability to raise your hand in your Zoom control panel. So that will also tip me off to know that you have a question. We also have the chat window if you aren't able to speak up and ask a question, and I'll be monitoring that as well. Just announce yourself when you do speak so we know whose lovely voice we're hearing. You can also use that chat window to post links to any resources or anything that you want to share. As you can see, I'm sharing my screen, but with Zoom, you also have the ability to share your screen if we need to. We just ask that if you're a consultant, or even if you're a customer admin or developer, best case scenario is don't show us your production org. Show us a sandbox or dummy data or anything like that. We are recording this call, and it will be posted to YouTube later for anybody to go back and reference. So we just want to be very sensitive to the fact that we don't, if at all possible, don't want to see real data if we don't have to. So just be mindful of what you share if you share. MVPs on the call. I see at least, I see a couple of names, but who are the other MVPs that we have on right now?
I'm here.
Hey, Carlos.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
And I have a question.
We're not there yet.
Pete's here as well.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for jumping on. All right, and then let me get back over here because two screens. So I mentioned earlier that MVP Office Hours is not just something that happens here in the States. There are actually a couple of other programs around the world. Everything is managed through mvpofficehours.info. You can get those, you can get information on the other groups. Here in the US, we're MVP Office Hours. There is a group in EMEA and as well as APAC. Those when they meet within the month and frequency, they vary, but you can either follow the Twitter handle or go to mvpofficehours.info to get information. And then Carlos, I'll let you speak to the Portuguese office hours.
Yeah, thanks. Even though it says Portuguese, we are open to everybody. Jackie Treviso has been there a couple of times. There's a lot of people. Steve Moe have been there. Rakesh has been there, and people just wanted to help. And the community in Portuguese is not just related to Brazil or Portugal, it's worldwide. We have people all over, even from people from Spanish. And I try to do my best to make, to do the translations back and forth. And people really feel inclusive when we have people that are non-Portuguese speaking, you know, or people that speak English or any other native language. The folks that only speak Portuguese, they feel really included, so it's a good thing. I enjoy a lot, and I hope everybody have a chance. Next one is next Thursday, so I hope you guys can help.
Thank you, Carlos. And yeah, just to echo that, I mean, like I said earlier, this call is a safe place. The Portuguese office hours call. This is a safe place. The community at large, I hope those who have been in the community for months and years, or if you're brand new to it, this is a very welcoming place that we can all just come as ourselves. There are no stupid questions, no stupid answers, no stupid thoughts. We are all in this together. We're all here to help each other. So that's why we're doing this. So that's all of the intro stuff. So before we get into the questions and the meat of the stuff, today is a very unique, unplanned day in the sense that as many of you may know and may even be here to ask questions about, there is a pretty significant issue, if not outage, with Salesforce right now that has affected permissions and at the org level, and it's a pretty big problem that's out there. I want to say as an MVP in the community, as an 8.5-year member of the community, and as also understanding that Salesforce is employed by people who are just trying to do their best, please, can we not bash, can we not say anything negative about Salesforce, about the issue, about the anything? This is technology. It happens. Can we please not go into a negative place when it comes to how this may or may not have happened, whatever. If we can just keep it in a positive frame of mind, if that does become a topic of conversation, that's the only thing I ask for this call, please, because we are all just people trying to do the best we can. That goes for Salesforce's product managers and their developers and everything. So let's keep this positive. That's, to me, that's the best way to go through life, is to just try to keep things positive. So with that, I'm gonna be quiet and let's get the first question going. Carlos.
Yes. First of all, I really appreciate what you said. I want to reinforce that, because as a Ohana, we come together, and when it's time to praise, we praise. When it's time to make a constructive or comments, we have to make as well. But we are all humans, and we cannot go right there now and say bad things about the company, because that's what most of us make a living. of that. So let's be conscious on that and how we express our dissatisfaction with what's happened. Okay. Mm-hmm. Can I share my screen?
Yes, sir. Hold on 2 seconds. Let me. All right, you should be good to take it.
Okay, let's see here. Share.
Really quickly, while you're getting your thing shared, there's a question from Liesel. Do you know if that issue is affecting sandboxes? Yes, from what I've seen in the community, it is affecting sandboxes. It's pretty much a platform-wide thing. So.
Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, the OAuth error.
Yeah. This is something I have no idea how it started over 6 months ago. Jackie tried to take a look. We couldn't do it. It's in my oldest dev org. I don't recall whatever I have done in that. And what happened is I do a login on my Trailhead. On my dev org. It works fine. As soon as I try to get either to the Trailhead or to the Trailblazer community, I get this error. You know, I close the window, I do it again, and it works fine. And I have asked this to like some sharp people, and they say, "Oh, if it happened to me, I just do it again." And I'm not very happy with that answer. So with that said, this is my dev org here. That's me. That's my user. Okay, as I said, this is my dev org. There's no confidential information here other than to people know my name and stuff. But you know, and I confess my ignorance on this, and I know that's only this thing here called an OAuth connected apps. I have done already a couple times today. So if anybody have a clue what I need to do here, I'll definitely be grateful.
Is that an intermittent error, or are you consistently seeing that problem?
If I go for the first time of the day, I haven't done anything, it happens. Okay. And as soon as I close it, I try to do right now and I couldn't replicate, you know? So
I get that sometimes when I try to, like, you know, if I'm in my inbox and I get a notification from the community and I click that view to comment link, it asks me for my creds and I try to log in. Sometimes I'll get that. Then usually what I do is I just try to log in manually. So sometimes I feel that it's a lot more common that I'll see this when I'm trying to log into Salesforce through like a redirect, if I'm trying to like hop through to the community or like OAuth into something that isn't my Salesforce org. And my usual workaround is I roll my eyes, I go to login.salesforce.com, I log in. I've never figured out what it is or what causes it. But for me, the most important thing is, can I get past it in a reasonable amount of time? Right now, I can't seem to log into Salesforce at all. But if it's only intermittent, while on the one hand, in the pursuit of science, I would like to know what the actual cause is. Exactly. On the other hand, the most important thing is, can you get past it?
Yeah, I mean, you know, my concern is that this is just a dev org. If this would happen to me in a production environment, a sandbox, then, you know, I cannot tell my users, hey, just do what I did. You know, I have an inquisitive mind. I like to know why things work. And this is something that's bothering me for 6 months now.
Hi. So can I repeat it? What I believe you said. This is reproducible when you first connect to your production org, and then you try to connect to this dev org, right?
Yeah, this is my dev org, and I can log in fine. Okay. Once I do that, and I try to go to either Trailhead or the Trailblazer community, it's gonna ask to my login. So when I put my username here, and that's when I get that message. You know, I get that error.
So the message is actually when you're accessing Trailhead and community.
Yeah. It has not I don't have this when I try to log in into my dev org. As a matter of fact, I'm on the dev org now. Let me close it.
Okay. I did, when I was doing the Trailhead stuff, there was some like warnings they gave about when you're, it was around like the first lesson, so I'm a little foggy on it. But it was about like when you're installing, things from the App Store, and it would specifically tell you, oh, when you do this, if you've been logged into your production org and you're going to go use this Trailhead, you really should like open up an incognito window, because it'll try to like, it might try to go install this application in your production org. I haven't particularly got your problem, but I've gotten this problem when I've been messing around with things, and kind of my standard way of dealing with it is kind of what the Trailhead was telling me in the beginning, which is I launch incognito windows. I think your problem is something related to...
Yeah, you see, I just tried here and it came fine to my Trailhead or to my community,
Yeah.
And as I said, it happened maybe once a day when I started for the first day, but it's something to think about it, because there's got to be a solution for that.
If you're connected to your OAuth between your dev org and your production org, are those using the same methods?
No, I don't have any production here. I don't mix work related to these things. This is the only dev org that's happened. I have probably over 20 dev orgs, and this is the only one where I have this issue.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I don't have anything. I'm using mainly the, I thought we only could get one dev org. I thought we got like a bazillion scratch orgs, but we only were able to get one.
You can have a bazillion dev orgs too.
Oh, please. You can have a truckload. In your Trailhead, you can only have up to 10 assigned in there as your, the org, either a dev org or playground, any given at the time. But no, I lost count how many I had it.
I thought those so I know that dev orgs associated with my production environment, my actual SIT, my company's Salesforce account, right?
Oh no, that's a sandbox, a developer sandbox. A dev org is just you go spin up your own org. It comes with a very small amount of data storage, but you get all the bells and whistles for you to go build your own configurations and automations and whatnot. DevOrg is you own it personally versus a developer sandbox, which is a copy of your production org.
Okay.
All right. Well, I don't want to drag the folks, but if anybody later on come across this, please, help this guy here, because I pull in the last hair that I have, and I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there probably face the same thing. But we can move on, Dale. Thanks for the time.
Absolutely. Who has the next question or open topic of conversation, whatever?
I guess I have a question if nobody else does.
Mm-hmm. Go for it.
So I have a large object that I'm looking to delete. It has, I think, 2 million rows or so, and it takes up like 33% of my org.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not used, which is always great. So I'm told that I need to have Salesforce actually delete it. First off, is that true?
What?
I don't see why. Have you tried truncating it?
Again, I'm kind of in general new to this.
Well, so okay, and yeah, that's it's just a regular custom object. It's not a big object, right?
No, we have no big objects in our database.
If it's just a regular custom object, you shouldn't need Salesforce to do that, because when you delete a custom object, you're deleting the data along with it. So it's not like, I don't know, maybe I'm oversimplifying, but where do you have like any documentation or any email or correspondence that indicated that we can possibly look at that?
I just talked to somebody else within the firm, and they said that. So I'm doing like a litmus test on that. The other question, yeah, so this is truncate. I like truncate. I know about truncate. That's a thing in Salesforce? I can just truncate an object?
And I was on mute. Yeah, so truncate is, you have to enable truncate in setup. I forget how off the top of my head, but what truncate will do is it will delete all records within an object. So if you're running into errors because, you know, like, oh, it won't let you delete this thing because it's just, oh, there's too much, we can't do it.
Yeah.
You can try using truncation first to delete all records. This is something that I do frequently if I'm like working in a dev org on some crazy harebrained mousetrap that I'm trying to come up with. And oops, I just created 100,000 rows and I'm out of room, but I'm not done testing. So I'll truncate, which deletes all data and basically wipes it back to square one. So if you're having trouble where you're trying to delete the object and it's throwing some bizarro error because there's too much data, it doesn't know how to handle it, you can try truncating first. That's going to get rid of your data. If you're still having issues with that, I would recommend, and this might be a little bit more challenging because, again, you're looking at a data issue, try data loading out just the IDs and then deleting the records with the data loader and batch. You can probably, depending on how much automation you have around this object, if it's relatively light, you should be able to, in the data loader settings, enable bulk API. Then you can delete those records at 2,000 rows a clip. And I do a lot of crazy, goofy experimentation, especially with like large data volumes in dev orgs. So I've got a few orgs where they'll crank up the limits for me, and I've deleted 1 million records before with the data loader and not had any issues. I've truncated 1 million records before and not had any issues. Who told you that only Salesforce could delete this object, though?
I don't want to say it too loud because he's in another room.
It was just someone. It was someone within your company.
No,
though.
I mean,
yes.
Was it in?
The quote is,
so
due to the size of the object, we are prohibited from deleting the custom object or purging the records from the object. These actions must be escalated and performed by Salesforce support.
Yeah, I don't think support's going to delete your data for you. But if that's just if that's an internal policy that you have, maybe that's one thing. From a systems perspective, I don't think there's anything stopping you from, just
all right,
doing that.
We have no internal policy.
You're certainly going to overflow your recycle bin, but that's about it.
Okay, so this truncate thing, let's talk about that more, because from like the the transactional database land, I want to know how much my understanding of truncate correlates with Salesforce. Does that like bypass all triggers and it's a non-logged event and it just goes super fast?
It's an excellent question. I have no idea. It deletes all records. That's all I as far as will it still execute like before or after triggers in a delete context? I really would be interested to find that out. If the doc doesn't specify, I would assume that it does not do any kind of special bypassing.
Okay.
So, did I reshare my screen? Can you see the H&T article here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And I'll share the link also. But after
this is all records currently. Related events, track notes. Oh yeah, that's another question I have. So when I'm looking at these objects and then I was like looking at the relationships and stuff, I noticed that like for any custom object, it creates like a bunch of relationships to like Salesforce stuff, right? Like an example is an attachment, right? Mm-hmm. And I just want to, I don't want to take this for granted, but I'm assuming that on a row level, let's say I create like a custom object, whatever, and then I attach something to it. And then I delete that custom object. Will that attachment get deleted?
On the previous page, it was saying like any notes and attachments, documents, all that stuff. I imagine would go away. It would just be like you normally delete the record.
Okay.
If it's the master detail parent, I would assume that its children would be deleted.
Normal delete.
Yeah. If it's a master detail, like it would just be the same as if you delete anything. I would assume that anything that would happen if you delete the records manually would happen if you delete them with truncate.
Okay.
And really the ultimate thing to test is on your lookup relationships, where when you establish the relationship, what happens to that child. That would be something, obviously, in a sandbox to test. Master, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's the other good thing I mentioned to him too. It's like we can try that in the QA environment. So, and this is just base Salesforce questions, because again, I'm pretty new to Salesforce. So if I have a master detail relationship, because this thing has two relationships, and I just kind of want to know this in general too. I have a master detail relationship and I delete one row. Forget about the truncate thing. If I delete that row, does it go delete in the master? Does it go delete the details automatically?
The children below it?
Yeah, or are they orphaned?
No, you can't have an. Well, yes, it would delete because you can't have an orphaned master detail relationship.
Or you can't have orphaned details. Okay. So the question is, so a follow-up question to clarify, are you forced to delete the children first, or does it just automatically delete the children for you if you delete the master? So in some systems, in some systems, like if you could create a foreign key relationship between things in SQL, and you go try to delete the master row, and it would just give you an error. So I'm kind of wondering what Salesforce does. Is it going to like give me an error, or is it going to actually go?
All right.
It's called a cascading delete in SQL land.
Okay, so I'm in my dev org, and I want a custom object. I want to create a master detail. I think. Well, no, that's reparenting. That's not delete. I would think if you delete the parent of a master detail relationship and in a truncate, either one, you're deleting the child records.
There is a cascading delete. Just like SQL, it will be a cascading delete on a master detail.
Okay, it's a cascading delete. Okay.
It's not an error.
So now going back to your
and then a kind of related question to that, let's say it's a lookup. If I have a lookup and I go delete the row, does the guy who have the lookup, is his ID set to null now?
What do you mean his ID?
Yeah, the lookup would be cleared out when you delete. Yeah, if you have contact. Yeah, child looks up to parent. You delete parent. If it's a lookup, not master detail, it just clears the field.
Awesome.
So I don't know if you can see my screen now, but that would be selected when that would be dictated by how the relationship was initially created.
Oh, interesting.
Through lookup.
Is that the default?
The default is just clear the value of the field. You can't choose this option if you make field required, or don't allow deletion of the parent record if it's referenced.
And that'll cause an exception to come up, and I have to test that to figure out whether the exception tells you the row that you need to, or the rows you need to. Which leads me to another question I have on my list here. Mm-hmm. So I have this object I want to delete, and I want to look up all the relations in my Salesforce database. Is it possible to I understand the master detail, that should be easier, right? Like I should be able to look at the object and see that. But how do I know who has a lookup relationship with this table without?
The easiest way I can think of is go to the page layout editor and see what your option under related lists are. That's going to determine all the different field or the different objects that look up to it.
Related list. Okay.
Schema Builder helps you with that too.
Right. Now, yeah.
So in Salesforce, it's impossible to have a non-explicit relationship. Everything is explicit, right?
Do you mean like a polymorphic lookup where it's
You could have a test. You could have a regular text field that has IDs in it, which basically not lookups or anything, but they could look up to basically. The lookup is a physical foreign key, so is master detail. But you could nothing prevents you from creating a text field and sticking in any kind of external ID that has the same data in another object. That essentially doesn't create any relationship or anything like that, just data, but it creates a reference for you in your queries in the business. You could look at those things and say, oh, I could find those other records. But Salesforce would not know anything about it. It's just all your application design and development.
Okay. And that would be only accessible by, you wouldn't with Salesforce querying, it wouldn't recognize the relationships or anything. You would have
Nope.
to actually, in your Apex code, you would get an object back,
Correct.
that column, and then you'd have to like write another query or a subselect or something, which would then take that field that you had with the ID and then query for that other record. Okay, I see. So that type of thing is very non-standard and unlikely to be there.
Yeah, and that's kind of hacky as well. But I mean, if you were thinking more like a polymorphic lookup where a single lookup field can relate to multiple objects, those exist, but we can't create them. The most common examples would be who ID and what ID on task, where the what ID can relate to almost any object in the system. So I would imagine that you could have tasks that are related to this object through the what ID field. I don't think that they're going to get. I'm not positive if they would get deleted or not, but we can't create polymorphic lookups. So besides task, I wouldn't worry too much about some unexpected object looking up to it.
Does anybody else have a question?
I'm just going to say, if anybody,
just raise your hand and I'll shut up.
I'm just going to interject super quick, going back to the question of understanding all the child relationships. If anybody hasn't already submitted an idea and wants to, it would be fantastic if on an object's details it said, and these are all the child objects it's been referenced by, rather than having to go to a page layout and look at the related lists or get into an XML builder or something like that. I'm just saying, if anybody wants to put an idea out there on there, I'd absolutely upvote it. But anyway, keep going. We do. Let's see. I hadn't even been looking at chat honestly through that question. Squire said, if you have to delete the child object of a master detail, you have to delete the child or change the lookup first. Data deletion versus object deletion, yes. What about the where used button? Where used, I think it's only on the field. I think it's on the field.
Yeah, the where used button is on pilots. It's not everybody that has it.
I thought it was GA.
No, it's not.
So this is something to read about. It's called the where used.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a button though, right?
It's a button that would be on a field detail.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I have on my org, but it's an org that's part of the pilot, and I have that since August of last year. But as of now, I have all the fresh new orgs for the summer 19, and I haven't seen any there.
Okay, two more. Well, I might have some more questions, but nobody has their hand raised yet. So I'm studying for the test for Dev 1, right? And two questions about relations. One I think I know the answer to. If I want to create a many-to-many relationship, that's a junction table in which I basically create two master detail relations from the junction table or the junction object. Is that correct?
Yep, that's how we would do it.
Okay, and I think Dennis has a question, so I'll cede for now.
So let's see.
Or Denise, sorry.
So let's first, Lizelle, you had a question in the chat on Classy with Salesforce, but there's also, it looks like, some chat going back and forth. Do you want to unmute and?
Oh,
oh, you are unmuted. Hey.
Thanks. Because with the creation of, I guess, Classy contacts, it's automatically. I'm just trying to wrap my head around how to delete contacts, like automate a process in doing so, because I've never done it. So any tips as to how I can do that would be great, just because I can't prevent the creation of, with Classy, I can't prevent the creation of children contacts coming in. If a person registers, for an event for their child, just because of how they have their setup, I can't prevent that certain ticket type from coming into Salesforce. So they suggested I create some process to delete those like children's contact records, if that makes sense.
If they already exist, you mean?
No, because right now I work for a nonprofit and we don't have any children's like contact information, and they don't want that coming into Salesforce at all. So that's kind of the reason why I need to come up with a process as to how to delete it. I just have never done it, so I don't know how to go about doing it. Could
you create a process builder on the custom object from Classic, and that when it goes to it creates something on the contact, then you trigger a flow or a trigger or whatever, and that would be the way to delete that record. I mean, just without knowing much more than that.
Are you able to set is deleted to true with a process?
What I'm about to play with.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah, and I know there's no.
Oh, wait, whoa. Deleted, Boolean, is deleted. Here we go. Let's
Look
see
at that.
Huh. Well, but we don't want it. Whoa.
If I'm looking at that right, you're telling it to fire when is deleted is true. Declarative automation can't actually fire, so the process builder would never actually launch. So even though it's saying it'll only launch under that, only work on records that meet that criteria, to my knowledge, the only way to fire something on delete is to look for a master detail parent with a roll-up, and then that roll-up decreases, and then a child must have been deleted.
So my head's in a slightly different direction here. Like putting delete as the criteria feels like we're getting too far ahead. It sounds like they want to delete if it's a child. So you need to read the criteria that yes, this is a child, then go delete. But my head is now saying, whoa, you can put in criteria is deleted equals true. Did we just get delete, declarative delete?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because that would be a field update, right?
I kind of think no. No, if you
don't burst my bubble, man. I want this.
I want this too. Make it work.
I want it too. Like I said, that's why I got the master detail hack. I think no. If you know the criteria, the record you want to delete, just launch a flow and have the flow delete the record.
Yeah, because you can't do a delete action here, but you can go to a flow that says
I can go to a flow. Okay.
That says delete the record, but this might be my weekend right here is playing with this.
My expectation is that it won't fire because the process builder will never be called, even though it can check for that criteria. But I hope I'm wrong.
I said this was a call of optimism. So
yeah, you're not really
hoping for you.
Or is delete. You're not really looking for an is delete trigger. It's still just a DML update to that field. So I think it will work.
I think the issue here is when records are deleted, there are two things happening. Is delete field is one thing. There's another field called is archived when the record are archived by Salesforce. Both of those fields are restricted, and they're controlled by see all data. There's a special thing you need to do in SQL query when you query these records to see all the data. Otherwise, if your system just looking at it as a regular system, which this processor does exactly that, you will never see the records that are actually deleted or records that are actually been archived because there's no designator in those queries inside the process builder to actually see those records. You have to code specially in Apex to do that. Even Apex cannot see those records.
Stupid question. Doesn't she want to look at the things that are created though? I thought she wanted to prevent these children records from being inserted.
Yes, so in that case, wouldn't be the process builder instead of starting on a contact? Shouldn't that start on another object in there, like the custom object that she has associated with her app, called Classy?
whatever that object, yeah, I'm off in my own playland here on this
Yeah,
one, but whatever
because
whatever object that app is trying to insert a record into, that would be
the trigger. That would start point and then come to the contact, right?
Sure. I don't know. I guess I don't know the Classy app enough, but or at all. But
so I guess I would just basically create a flow as my action to delete when a contact is created. I guess for that, to distinguish a contact if they're a child or not, I just create like a checkbox or some sort, which will then kind of be my criteria. And then I have a flow to delete it if that contact record has, that checkbox. Is that kind of a way?
Well, I mean, I guess, do you have anything more refined? Like, are you capturing a date of birth that you could do math on that says they're under 18 or 17 or whatever? Or is there something else coming from Classy that explicitly says this is a child? Like, whatever the criteria is,
Right.
yes, that would be your criteria to then indicate this is the record to be deleted.
Okay, I guess I can ask for like their birthday, and then that will be my criteria.
Oh, question here.
It might be a relationship.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, how can you have a custom object creating a child on a standard object?
No, she means child as in it is a contact record who is under 18 years old.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a relationship. Okay, so then okay.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was a relationship. Wait a minute. Contact standard object being a child of a custom, that's
Right.
new. Hey, I love it.
No, it's the actual person, like the humans of the world. Yeah.
Come on, Dale. Summer 19. Wish list.
I know.
And while you're at it, make sure to make a validation rule that birthday cannot be greater than today.
Oh, got it. Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, I got that joke.
So yeah, if you want that record to be deleted, process builder into a flow, and the flow is what does the delete.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, Denise, I'm super excited to give you the floor. Go for it.
So everything you guys just talked about is absolutely terrifying because there's a group of us on this call that are not developers. We are just the front-end users of a developed site. So everything you're talking about is Greek or Portuguese or whatever you want to call it. So the question I guess I have is more general to start. A company has built a custom software application for Big Brothers Big Sisters all around the country to manage the match process in our organization. It is built on the Salesforce platform, of course. We are using our own data. We're learning our own process within this new platform. We are not even 3 months in to use. And our organizations range from 4 people to 100 people of all different sizes all around the country. Some organizations have IT departments, and some that have only 4 people are just nonprofit professionals that are trying their best to learn the system and manage the data. So my question is, would you have a recommendation for a group of people like us that are not in a sales environment to best utilize Trailhead or whatever learning resources are available to us to learn the custom reporting mechanism, the dashboard creation mechanism, all of those things, and learn it in a way that we could easily correlate to the type of data that we're working with. We're working with children, humans, and volunteers, and our own lingo. Our whole software has been built on our own lingo within our program. So it's proven difficult for those that aren't used to this environment to understand the training resources that are on Trailhead for how to create dashboards and reports and create logic and things like that. So is there just a recommendation for a true beginner of how to interpret what resources to use? Where should we go? How do we use them to best try to understand them and then apply them to our own world?
You said you're in Sheboygan, right?
I am.
Looky what I just found.
Oh my goodness, look at that. Well, that's terrifying. How did we not know that? Who's Ingrid? I want to know her.
All I did was search reports and dashboards nonprofit in Trailhead, and that group already created a trail mix. That might be a good way to start. I totally hear you when you say that Salesforce can be terrifying, especially when you're not in a sales position. You're putting more custom use case on it. But in the end, all of the principles of Salesforce applies regardless of the use case, in that reports are going to work the same whether you're working with sales data, not sales data, donor information, anything like that. The same core tenets apply. So as long as you start to build an understanding of reports, let you report on an object, its parent information, and potentially drilling down to some of its child information through the relationships, it's all the same Salesforce. So just starting to, like, if you start with this quick start reports and dashboards, you're going to learn a large percentage of what you need to report on any of your data. Doesn't matter where it is or what kind in Salesforce.
I think there's another concern that been raised, and I think I can relate to that. It's something called domain, like a driven design, or domain-driven architectures, where everything is domain specific. And if you don't know, not familiar with the vocabulary of that domain, you customize the system, all the labels, all the field names, all the object names are customized to that level. And if this group will look at Trailhead, they'll see not customized domain, they'll see Trailhead domain, Salesforce domain, which is going to be your sales leads accounts, which might be a totally different domain. But I think that is what the concern is. How do you learn that? And I think the Trailhead would be the first stop to learn the widgets and, I would say, sort of like gears and knobs of Salesforce. That's where you learn how Salesforce functions on a standard implementation. Then, once you understand that, you can go to the next level and say, aha, how do I apply this to my set of gears and my set of domain naming conventions? Obviously, seeing in your org what objects have been renamed to, what labels have been renamed to would be the first step, getting a data dictionary to do the translation on the fields to understand what you're looking at. That's where sort of that glue will come. And then you'll be able to understand and how to build those reports.
If I can add one other item, Denise, have you made it down to the Milwaukee user groups?
No.
So we would be super excited to have you join us at one of our meetings and help you with that problem. Salesforce Saturday also happens every second Saturday in downtown Milwaukee, and it's a bunch of really awesome people. I'm one of them that would be ecstatic to give you any help you need one-on-one. We'll crowdsource it. We'll work together to help you get up to speed too. So that's always an option as well. Trailhead's your number one stop, but you've got like live resources available to you if you need it. And if you're not attending, I just put a link to our local group to sign up for the next sessions and join us. I invite you to come and partake.
Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. I think, and I put this, I just responded to someone in chat about this, where there is a very small group of us trying to tackle all of this for the greater good. There's 250 plus agencies, but many of us tackling this are CEOs and program folks. And so we're jumping into a totally foreign world while we're trying to still manage our day-to-day and the companies. So, but knowing, and your name's Squire, so clearly I can find you easily.
That's true.
Squire is very good people to have in your pocket. Definitely.
And I'd like to offer one other thing too, just to add to another reason to come. So Baird has our entire internal matching and charitable gift process is built on the platform. We built it from scratch, but it's a foundation-driven app, and they went through all the same pains that sounds like you might be going through as well, and supporting almost 4,000 people nationwide for reporting and collections and just trying to help branches, et cetera, et cetera. So you even got people in the same boat who you might be able to bounce some ideas off of as well.
Nice. Okay.
You know, and I can really identify. I can really identify with your position because prior to being a Salesforce guy, I was a baker. I had no idea what I was doing when I first jumped in. I felt like I was drowning, and you got to rely heavily on the community. And when it finally clicks and you have that aha moment, it's such a valuable experience, and it's so awesome. And I you know, I'm not a developer. I might sound like one, but I've only been doing this for a couple of years. You know, you ramp up really, really quick. The training material is excellent. The community is excellent. And you've got all the resources you need to succeed.
Well, and if I can go to Milwaukee and figure this out, I have a feeling that most of the other people here on this call will cover my drink tab at our conference in June. So I'm up for it. Thank you, guys.
Jolyn Kenny says first round on her.
Good woman.
All right, we are at 52 past. Do we have any other questions? Anything else that anybody wants to bring up? Where did my participant window go?
Really quick, there was a couple questions early in about the duplicate manager and Lightning. I wasn't sure if my random chats were enough to help. Sorry, was it Rob asking the questions? If that was enough to get him started?
Rob just chatted follow up on mine, so I think we might be crossing paths on that.
Okay.
Off mute. Do I need to unmute you on my side? Maybe.
Maybe on my headset.
There you are.
Hey, cool. Thanks. I see we only have a minute left. Very great conversation. Love that the Ohana is supporting the Ohana. That's what I call meta. And I haven't deployed Lightning yet, but I've got the switchable moving on and off, on and off, on and off. And because of some duplications, I'm starting to pay attention to that message that you see in the account in Lightning that says this is a possible duplicate. And I see the answers up in the chat. Thanks, everybody. Obviously, you create a duplicate matching rule, I guess, inside of the standard duplication functionality. And then that message is, if I'm learning this correctly, it's firing off that. So for example, I could have a rule that would be based on fuzzy that says if account name equals account name. And that might catch the cases where Smith and Jones corporate is going to match on Smith ampersand Jones corporate. And that might be useful, but in that case, I don't want anything to happen. I just want the match to be noted. I want the duplicate to be called out. I don't want anybody deleting any records in any automated way. So that's my follow-on question: is that a tool in order to ID and then manually make some decisions?
Absolutely. The dupe rules are great in that you can set them up, and they're being shown on the screen right now. I'm not sure if you can see it, but
no, I can see it. Yeah.
So you can do a lot of really cool things. You can just alert the person who's creating that record that it might be a dupe and take no action. You can make him stop automatically, but then it also will generate output so that you can have a data steward go through and do all of the merging and cleanup after the fact, even if they say, yeah, I know it's a dupe, but I want to enter it, or maybe after a data load. And that window that you're seeing in Lightning is just another way to get to those matches.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, all that functionality is like at the tip of your fingers. The one thing I'll offer, and I'm open to being told otherwise, but the standard rules really are bad.
Yes.
They are really complex and at the same time also all-encompassing. And so as soon as you dive in, my best suggestion is, especially, and it sounds like you already know what you're talking about, start from scratch. Think about what a duplicate rule really should be, and don't try to reverse engineer what the native one is, because it's
Right.
trying to do too much, in my opinion.
Right. And that's good advice. Was that Dale talking? Sorry.
No, that was Squire.
Oh, Squire, thanks. Yeah, I mean, the one I have in place which prevents dupes, is dependent on almost a concatenation along with fuzzy logic as part of the phone because it had to get over some sort of known bug within dupe. Yeah, so, not exactly my favorite spot in the software.
Yep.
But because of a massive 18,000 record download that I had to do for a team in a hurry, I can tell there's probably about 100 dupes in there. I'd like to have an easy way to call out what those 100 dupes are. And this sounds like if I just put in one more rule that says account equals account, even with the standard functionality, it's going to say, wow, this looks like another record somewhere.
Well, and I can do you one better there too. So before I forget, you commented that you don't want people just going in and doing cleanup. That component can be pulled off your Lightning pages if you're not familiar. It's just like any other related list component.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
So you can make sure that nobody knows about that unless you want.
Right.
But you can run a job at any time against a set of matching rules and get matching records. So to your point, if you just wanted to say, I want to see how many times there's a duplicate email in my system, you can write a rule and run it right now and get matching records to act on in the back end through the matching engine.
So you get to specify which rules it's going to use for the run job.
Yeah, when you run it like versus like an active one that's triggering on record creation.
Right.
You can just run a set of rules and say, tell me what I need to know about my data right now. Yeah. You can.
And then is that an exportable output?
You can, because what you're really doing is you're running the output is actually a set of records that say this record A and record B look like a match. And so you're actually running a report of either the records that tell you there's matches, or you can do a relationship report to go get the records themselves. But the tool itself gives you the ability to do a compare and act on those matches themselves. You don't have to export them. You can, unless you're dealing with millions and you want to do it via data load or something.
No, it's probably only about 130.
Yeah, so you'd probably be better off running that matching rule engine and just saying, going through every pair and say, those are fine, clear it, those are fine, or those aren't great, merge them, and just going through. Now you're acting on the output versus swivel chairing a little bit.
And Squire, last question, then I'll throw the microphone back over to our leaders. And all this conversation is Lightning only, correct?
No. It's underneath the covers. The dupe.
No. The dupe you're describing it. That's right. That can be done in Classic. I got that.
Yep.
But that message is Lightning only in the UI.
Yes, that little component. That's it. That's specific to that. Yes.
Thanks. That's my understanding. Great.
Yep.
Thanks.
Right. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we are at 2 till. So fantastic conversation today. I don't know if anybody's been watching to the side, but do we have any updates on the degradation issue, the outage that we've been dealing with today? Anybody?
Some orgs are coming back. We're back online. The one instance that we were impacted by.
Awesome.
We had a number of instances down completely, and now some of them are back to normal. Those are dev.
Progress. That's progress. That's good.
Our instance did not go down, but I was having a lot of funky stuff going on with some reports over in analytics.
Okay. It sounds like they're making progress. So that's something, right?
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Fantastic conversation. Please have a good weekend. And here in the States, next weekend, Memorial Day, we won't, have a good holiday weekend, good start to summer. And I'm going to share these couple of links that we talked about later on, either this afternoon or over the weekend. We'll have the recording posted on YouTube as soon as possible. And if none of us cross paths, we'll be back on here on June 7th. So thank you, everyone. Have a good one.
Bye.
Cheers.